This is an amazing find for the Abrahamic religions, validating that the city of Jericho, this ancient city of Jericho, is the world's oldest walled city, with evidence of stone fortification dating back nearly 9,000 years ago. That would put it around 7,000 BCE. Archaeological digs have turned up traces of habitation that are even older, up to 11,000 years ago, which would put it at 9,000 BCE. On posts that demonstrates this picture, Christians have validated that their book is true, that the stories of Exodus and Leviticus and Deuteronomy and Joshua are all true stories. That Joshua, with the sounding of horns, caused the walls to crumble in their journey to the promised land when they walked into the land of milk and honey. The Christian world is overjoyed. Except this area does not fit the archaeological history at all. You see, first, let's go ahead and understand that we don't have our first mentioning of anyone who is known as a Hebrew or Israelite until the Meneptah Stele. The Meneptah Stele is in around 1200 BCE. During this time frame, the Egyptians had control of this area, of this landmass. This is at the beginning of the Bronze Age collapse. So this land would have been controlled by the Kemetic people. Now, according to archaeological history, the walls of Jericho tumbled in around 1400 BCE. But the problem with the walls ever being rebuilt didn't occur until the 4th century BCE, which would have been in around 300 BCE. So a little over 1,000 years went by, and there were no walls of Jericho. And since the Exodus story happens in around 1000 BCE, there's no walls to fall. The story is simply made up because they had already known that the walls of Jericho had fallen around 1400 BCE. So they adapted this story to fit their narrative. And what do we really know about this land? Why were there inhabitants in and around 9,000 BCE? Well, this would have been right after the Younger Dryas flood. The Younger Dryas flood rose sea levels by 400 feet. Many people moved inland. This area had many copious springs in and around it, making it a great area for farming, for agriculture, for animal husbandry. So habitats were built during this time frame, but who would have been those people around 9,000 BCE? This land most likely would have been controlled by the Sumerians. And then after that, it would have been the Akkadians. But one thing we must understand, the Sumerian people are not Semitic people. So the first Semitic people would have been the Akkadians. And Semitic, understand, does not mean Hebrew, Israelite, or Jew. It means a person of a Semitic language and culture. This would later also include the Israelites and the Hebrews. But it also includes the Canaanites, the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, and all the other ites were Semitic people. So this story, this find, does not validate Judaism nor Christianity. What it demonstrates is that there were a people who have claimed that they were the conquerors of this land. And yet, true archaeological history demonstrates that they were simply not the conquerors of this land. That they really just stole someone else's story, or used the fact that they knew the walls had came down and created a story as propaganda for themselves. So I'm sorry, Christians. You thought you had some archaeological evidence, but once again, your Bible fails to prove history. So y'all have a great day. And remember always, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.